Dear students, good afternoon and welcome back to the course IP Law HOE 6019. And well, I'm your lecturer Pawan and I'll be dealing with you all during this term. And I guess it's safe to assume that most of the classes will be online, which is a pity because I see on Moodle that there are 64 participants and it would have been a real pleasure to meet you all in person. Well, we go with the flow, all right? So, last time I spoke a bit about the introduction to IP law, and today I would like to, well, start off with trademarks. And if you have seen the notice that I sent in the news forum, as well as in Moodle itself, we'll be looking at basically the UK trademark booklet, and that's the key for studying from the exam point of view. There's a lot of stuff otherwise there on Moodle, and I've also added some new case laws. They are not from the exam point of view as such, but they're more for your reading purposes so that you can understand what I'm talking about in the lecture. So maybe before we start off with trademarks, I was thinking I should talk a bit about this little story that I really like a lot. It's not 100% true, but it's still a very nice story. So it deals with commercialization of IP, and that's very important because creating intellectual property or protecting intellectual property is one aspect. You can get a registered trademark or whatever, but actually making your IP work for you or for your client and to get monetary benefits from it, you need to be good at commercializing intellectual property. So the story goes that in the 1980s, there was IBM, Hewlett Packard, the big boys, and they were into the hardware part, and the software part was just coming up and developing. And a lot of software developers in those times were these young people who would just write down a source code or a program using some computer language like COBOL or something. And so there the main focus there was that they would write the program and try to sell that software to maybe IBM. And the key word here is sell. So they would sell it, and IBM would give them, I don't know, maybe 10,000 US dollars, and that would be the end of it. So you are a young developer, you go to IBM, you say you have a new software, and IBM will say, very good, we have tested it, it looks nice, here's your 10 grand, take it, bye bye. And they would then become the owners of the software. And then one day came this young Bill Gates, and he had developed this software program, and he went to IBM and he said that he would like to, commercialize this. So IBM checked out his program and they said, well, it looks good. Okay, here's your 10,000, take it, and we own the program. And Bill Gates said, I don't want to sell it, I want to license it. And IBM was like, oh, what the hell is that? What do you mean license it? So Bill Gates said, well, for example, every computer you sell with my program on it, I want $1 for it. And IBM said, that's a bit risky, isn't it? Maybe we don't sell, it works out, it doesn't click. Why don't you just take 10,000 and be happy? And Bill Gates said, no, I want to take this risk and I want to license the software to you. And in the first year, IBM sold 1 million computers with that software in it. It was so popular. And so Bill Gates made $1 million. So what are the key takeaways from this story? Number one, it's a story. It's not 100% true or accurate. So, all right, just take it with a pinch of salt. But number two, more importantly, is the fact that, wow, right? You see how you can actually make a ton of money, a lot more money, by using your brains over here. So commercialization is very important. And that's something that I'll be talking about in more detail during this course as well. Remember, as I said in the beginning, this course is a unique course in the sense that we have law students and also students from other faculties, from engineering and computer sciences, etc. So this is not your regular law course where we have boring directives and regulations. Instead, we look at some other quirky aspects about the law and try to keep it as informal and non-legal, so as to say, although I don't think that's entirely possible, but we'll still give it a shot. So we're looking at trademarks today, and as I said, you refer to the UK trademark booklet when you're studying for the exam. Everything else in this particular section of trademarks in Moodle is just for reading so that you can understand what I'm talking about. All right, because this trademark booklet is a bit thin. Yeah, so of course the exam questions will be from here, but it's still a proper course, so you should know the background and the various things that go into it. So I'll refer to them in the lecture, during the video lecture, and of course you can read them up as well in your spare time in Moodle. And hopefully a combination of this video lecture and the materials in Moodle will help you to get a good wholesome view about the entire trademarks aspect of IP law. So what is a trademark? Well, right in the top of this Moodle trademark section is a trademark directive 2436 of 2015. That's something that law students should know about. And again, it's not coming from the exam point of view, but this is the directive which lays out all the requirements of the EU trademark regime. There's also a regulation in this regard, but that deals with European trademarks. I don't go into that, otherwise it'll get a bit confusing. The provisions are all the same, it's only that the numbers are different. So maybe for those of you who don't know, a directive is not as binding as a regulation in the EU context. A directive from the European Union is sort of something that's directed to all the member states, Estonia, Finland, Germany, whoever. And the idea is that they should synchronize their national trademark laws, their respective national trademark laws, so that they comprise of all the essential elements that are laid down in the directive. Those of you who are law students, well, you probably know better after having studied European Union law, the significance of EU regulation vis-a-vis an EU directive. So, but I won't go into that in too much detail. So when you look at a trademark, basically the definition of a trademark is a sign which can distinguish your goods and services from those of other traders or service providers. That's it. A very simple explanation. That's on page 3 of the UK trademark booklet. And so it has to be a sign. There were some other requirements in the past, but they have been watered down now. So you don't have to graphically represent your sign anymore, which has a lot of significance because we have a lot of trademarks which are non-conventional. In fact, you can even see a guest lecture by Stefan Mikel on non-traditional trademarks. I have put it up over here in Moodle, again, just for your information. So a trademark is a sign, and a sign can now include, for example, words, logos, shape, combination of things, smells, all sorts of stuff now. So a trademark is really just about anything under the sun now. As I said in the introductory lecture, well, I have some photos of what trademarks can be, and so you can see them in Moodle. Trademarks can also include sounds like the Nokia tune, James Bond tune. You may also see, for example, there's a video of the MGM sound mark, which is the lion roaring. Maybe I can play that for you, and that would be self-explanatory. Then you don't have to really even see the video. If you can hear it. So that would be the MGM trademark. If you see any movies, you see these trademarks all around. So the trademark basically is now what you could call a marketing tool, and it helps the owner of the trademark to communicate with his or her customers. So a trademark would be, for example, a phone. So your Apple phone, your iPhone, basically you see the symbol of the apple and you already know what it means, what it represents. Even though that phone may have been made in Taiwan or wherever else, it doesn't matter to you. It's an American phone for you, and that's the symbol. That's the science behind a trademark. Now, well, if we were in the classroom, I would have picked up a few of you just to ask you randomly what are your favorite car companies. And if you were to say that your favorite car was a Mercedes or a Volkswagen, immediately it tells a lot about you as a customer and the choices that you like to make and the way you like to spend your money. Maybe if you like Tesla, you are into all those fancy futuristic things that Mr. Musk talks about. Maybe you like hybrid cars, or maybe you like Ferraris, maybe you like something flashy, maybe you like American cars, or Lada or whatever. So of course, a trademark basically serves as a sign which can distinguish between a German automaker, in the sense like a Volkswagen, or maybe a Japanese, car maker like Honda. So of course you have these sort of situations here, and so you need to understand that when we study trademarks, we also have to keep in mind the valuation of a trademark. Very often you come across these articles in the press, in the news, which talk about the value of a trademark. So Apple is valued as a brand at 600 billion, or things like that. So of course all of these things are what comprises a trademark. It's a sign in a simplistic sense, and a customer can distinguish different products or services based on the trademark. And the definition of a sign is wide, very, very wide. In fact, it incorporates elements of copyright law, design law. So a lot of laws seem a bit superfluous now. I mean, why do you have copyright law when you can have a trademark which comprises of music? So the important element to remember, of course, regarding a trademark, the most important part is it distinctive? Now, distinctiveness is a word which can, a good trademarks book can comprise of almost 100 pages outlining distinctiveness. It's crazy. It just goes on and on. There are some case laws that I've put up over here that may be helpful for you. One is, of course, a Seichmann case. Somebody wanted to register a certain type of smell, and the German trademark office couldn't understand what to do of that. Well, of course, that's one aspect, but then there are other cases as well. Sable versus Puma is one such case, and if you read it in Moodle, you'll find it very interesting. One of them had a trademark which looked like a cheetah running from a faraway distance, and the other one had a trademark which resembled a cougar. That's a leopard or a mountain lion, as they call them in the United States. And from the far, if you looked at them, they look like cats, just big overgrown cats with big tails and 4 legs. So of course, when you look at it very closely, you can see that one is a cheetah and one is a leopard, but from the distance, you don't see it that way as a consumer. So of course, you can have a lot of confusion that can arise. And if you read that case law, you will see how it was outlined. So what has to be distinctive is something that really draws a connection straight away between a customer and the service or the product. So for example, Google is one such trademark, very distinctive, not from the English language in the normal sense. And then of course, it's a completely made up word. And that's very nice, because otherwise you can have confusion sometimes. Not in the case of Apple, because when you go to buy a 1,000 euro Apple 12 that's going to come out, you're not going to mistake that with something that's made out of apples or a fruit which you can eat, right? So of course you have the possibility to make a distinction in your mind about such things. So as long as you can clearly identify the products or the goods or services, that's what a good trademark is all about. It's something that helps a customer to identify what they want to buy. And then of course, if you look at Sable and Puma, you may then consider another trademark which contains a cat, and that would be Hello Kitty. Again, all three of them are very different. So you have to keep in mind that just because there's a cat in the trademark, it doesn't mean that it belongs to one particular specific company or trademark owner. There can be different variations of the feline family, and different cats can have different meanings. Now, when you look at what a trademark should comprise of, so now let's say you have seen the trademark case, Sable versus Puma, and now you have understood what these two mean. So now let's look at a real life scenario. All right, so I'm a dad, I have a 10-year-old daughter, or let's say a 10-year-old son, and they have sports day in school. So my children tell me, my son tells me that he wants a sports shoe because he has seen some of his friends in school wearing a sports shoe. So if I ask my son, what exactly does he want? Is there a particular type of shoe that he wants? Well, being young, he may not be able to articulate his wishes very completely. He may not even know that there's something called Puma company or Adidas company or whatever. So from his memory, he will tell me, well, Dad, I want a shoe which has this cat on it. And in the back of his mind, he probably means Puma or Sable. Now, I have no idea about these things. So I'm in a rush. In the morning, I say, okay, fine, I'll go to the shop in Kobamaya, Virukeskus, and I'll check it out for you. So I go there and I tell this nice person who's selling the shoes that, hey, I want a shoe for my son. It's a running shoe and it's got a cat on it. Just give me whatever. And so this person has no idea what I'm talking about or thinking about. So he comes up with a shoe and says, well, here's a shoe that we have. It's a Hello Kitty shoe from Japan and it's got a cat on it, and that's as catty as it gets. And I'm going to look at it and say, hey, this is crazy, all right? Maybe my son didn't want this, but, well, I'm in a rush. I have no idea. I'm the parent who's just buying the shoe. I have no, I'm not going to wear it. So I buy the shoe and I say mentally to myself, well, I need to talk to my son, see what's going on in his mind. Why would he want to wear a Hello Kitty shoe in pink color? But whatever, all right? So I pack it up, go to work, come back in the evening, give it to my son, and he freaks out and says, that's not the shoe I wanted. And you can see here already, this is how the confusion starts from a consumer's point of view. So it can be quite complicated. It's not straightforward and simple. That's why you have the directive. That's why you have all these case laws. Well, why is it relevant? Well, I could have bought a €100 shoe from Puma, but instead I ended up buying a €50 shoe from Hello Kitty. And of course, shoes are shoes. They're sold at the same shop. And one customer messed up, and that's why one trademark owner, one company suffered a loss of one customer, and another company, gained a customer, all because of confusion regarding the label mark, which comprised of the image of a cat. So confusion is the key aspect over here. And then of course, something can be confusing when, for example, you have a trademark Microsoft and then somebody comes up with micro hard. Or even more silly would be a trademark Microsoft.ee to sort of imply that it is Estonian Microsoft and it's different from American Microsoft. These sort of situations where you can have confusion, and that's why trademark law tries to avoid such confusion by making clear that such trademarks do not get registered. Now, while we are at it, maybe it will be very important also for you to know that if you want to register a trademark, or your client wants to register a trademark, you don't just go and get a trademark for everything under the sun. In Moodle, there is the International Classification of Goods and Services under the Nice Agreement. And so if you can see over here, there are different classes, 45 classes for goods and services. So it's very important to take a look at this because, for example, class 1 comprises of chemicals, class 5 comprises of drugs, Class 9 comprises of scientific equipment, and so on and so forth. And then services are from class 35 onwards. And these are very important. Of course, what you see in Moodle, the needs classification, is not definitive. It's just a very loose framework, just explains a few words and numbers. As a professional, as a lawyer, there would be a big fat book outlining the international classification of goods and services and every possible types of goods, a pen, a phone, whatever, a lamp, whatever, computer, everything would have a description and a number attached to it. And so as a trademark lawyer, if a client comes to me and says that they want to register a trademark, let's say McDonald's, then, well, of course, McDonald's is popular for food, so you would have to look for food stuff, and so that would be out over here. For example, class 29 is there for food, class 30 is for food, but you also have class 32, which is for fruit drinks and fruit juices. If you've been to McDonald's, you would also know that they make, they have these balloons, they have McDonald's Happy Kids meal, so they have toys. So all of these are relevant. They also have t-shirts with their clothes on there, with their trademark on them. They also provide a service in the sense that they have a franchise model. I'll talk more about this in the coming weeks. And so under the franchise model, they have certain arrangements with the franchisees. And so based on that, the franchisee has to purchase certain signboards, certain types of equipment, the certain style of making the fries or packaging them. So all of those would be different services. So when you apply for a trademark for McDonald's, of course, they don't make drugs, so you don't have class 5 registration. They don't make chemicals, they don't make hand tools. So none of that would come there. You would be looking more at food stuff. And then, of course, all the associated services that you can think of that your client McDonald's is interested in. And based on that, you would have a trademark, McDonald's. That would be the word mark, McDonald's, just the words. Then you would have the symbol, the bridge, and the color scheme. So that would be 2 trademarks, and they would be for, as I outlined, 6 or 7 different classes. So you would have in total almost 14 trademarks that you would think your client McDonald's would be interested in. So that's how these things work. So there's a bit of a technique to all of this. So as a trademark, as a person who wants to apply for a trademark or who wants to help her client register a trademark in the trademark office, you would have to look through these sort of situations. So that's also outlined over here, and so you can see what these trademark situations are about. Where would you apply for a trademark? Well, in the trademark office, that would comprise of a few possibilities here. If you are in the European Union, first of all, you could apply for a trademark in Estonia. So you would go to the Estonian trademark office, and that's all that you want to do. You want to apply for a trademark in Estonia because your business is in Estonia. But let's say you are Hesburger. In that case, well, you would apply for the trademark in a few more countries because you are based in different countries now. The same would go for McDonald's or Burger King or whatever. So as you can see here, obviously you can apply under what we call a national route, which would be in the member state, the nation, for example, in Estonia or in Finland or in Germany. Then a second alternative would be, since you are in the European Union, you can apply for a European Union trademark, which would then be enforceable all across the European Union in all the member states, which was really interesting and very nice. But now if you're a British company and you have, a European Union trademark, well, the problem now is you're not going to be a European Union member state for long. So, well, if you are a British company incorporated in Britain, based in Britain, then you could have sometimes problems related to a European Union trademark. But you can always have now a subsidiary company in France or in Estonia or in Finland, and then you could register for a trademark in the name of the subsidiary company. So there are ways around it. A third alternative would be maybe you want to have a global trademark all over the world, 190 countries or whatever. So instead of applying individually in each country, you could go under the Madrid Convention, and then you can apply for registration in almost 150 countries. The good thing about this is it's a centralized process. You apply in one place, you get the certificate, and it works in all of the member states, all the countries under the convention. So 3 alternatives: an Estonian trademark in a member state under the national trademark regulation or law. Then you have under the European Union trademark regulation, you could apply all across the European Union, all the member states together, or then you could apply all over the world using the Madrid Convention. So I'll be looking at some very basic situations here. Of course, they would apply in all the 3 situations because the trademark law is the same throughout the world. So you don't have to worry about those parts. But considering what sort of trademarks can be there, well, let's look at some very basic and general concepts. Number 1, the law considers the customer, the end user. As a customer, you are expected to have brains, you're not stupid, and so of course the law does not want to insult your intelligence. As a customer, you know the difference between an Apple iPhone and Apple juice, right? I mean, so it's obviously very clear over here. The level of the customer's attention span, all of these are also very important things. So for example, if you're going to buy a 1,500 euro laptop, of course you already know what is the RAM, what is the memory space. You already know a lot of the features, what sort of operating system it has. You have already done a lot of research. So that's very different compared to buying a toothbrush. Yeah, I mean, you want to buy a toothbrush, you have some very basic requirements. A toothbrush that fits in your mouth, that can brush your teeth. Well, of course, it could have certain features. It could be a rotary toothbrush. It could be, something with a nice funky shape, or it could just be a plain Jane simple toothbrush, plastic, no fancy hand grips, nothing. Yeah, so as a customer, you have the knowledge about what you want. If you are going to buy an aeroplane, let's say a Boeing 747 or something, that costs 300 million euros, obviously you know what you're buying, right? I mean, you're not just going out of your bed and deciding that you want to buy a plane today. You obviously have an idea about what your requirements are, and you probably also have a professional background in what you're going to buy. So as a customer, your attention span is very different based on the complexity or the cost of the product or service, and the law respects that. And so of course, as a customer, you already know that there is Zara, they sell clothes. There is Zara man, there is Zara woman. So you know already what this means. But then there can be sometimes some different situations. So one of the case laws that I have outlined over here is very illustrative about the problems that you can have sometimes. And I see it's not made available. So let me just put it up over here so that you can see it and read it. Again, it's not important from the exam point of view, but I would like you all to be aware about these sort of cases. Okay, so where did it go? Oops, sorry about this. Let's see here. Okay, so there is this Victoria's Secret case. That's Mosley versus Victoria's Secret catalog, and I've made that available as well, so you can read that case just to understand. Well, here was an interesting situation. I think you all know about Victoria's Secret. It's a lingerie company. They had a lot of redeemable features. Unfortunately, they're not doing very well nowadays since the last 4 or 5, 6 years now. But in the 1980s, when this company really came out, it was quite revolutionary. You see, until the 1980s, women's lingerie and all this, the clothing that they had, in that sense, was directed more towards male customers. It was sort of presumed that men would buy these sort of fancy lingerie, expensive lingerie for their girlfriends or wives or something. Yeah, a very weird viewpoint. But as I was born in 1975, I can confirm things were weird at that point of time. Not that they have improved much, but the weirdness just changes a little. So in the 1980s came Victoria's Secret, and they started targeting women. They said, our customer should be an independent, broad-minded, attractive woman. So that's how they spun their entire corporate identity, the trademarks of their products, everything. Then you probably are aware of Victoria's Secret and their very famous fashion shows that they used to organize with some of the best top models of the world. And so they are a very influential company, or at least used to be. And they've been around for a long time, and they sell lingerie which is reasonably priced, expensive sometimes. You take your pick. So the case goes that I think it was in Florida, there was a retired US Army colonel, and then he went to a shopping mall, and by mistake he went downstairs in the basement, and there he found a small little kiosk called Victor's Little Secret, selling $1 porn stuff, sex toys, stupid stuff, idiotic stuff, like a pen, and you click on the pen and you can see a naked person and stuff like that. So it's like a version of the $1 store, but a $1 sex toy shop called Victor's Little Secret. And so, of course, this person, the customer, wrote a long letter to Victoria's Secret and said, I'm a regular customer, I buy stuff for my wife, and I'm very surprised that such a shop exists, and you should do something about this because it's bad for your reputation. So, of course, Victoria's Secret lawyers, they wrote to Victor and asked him, what the hell are you doing? Your name is Victor and we are Victoria, and you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And of course, Victor said, what the hell? I can do what I want to do. It's my name and it's my kiosk. And if I sell $1 stuff, it's my wish. So, of course, Victoria's Secret took this matter to the court. They went to the district court. And of course, Victoria's Secret won. Why not? They're so famous world over. Everybody knows them. It's a walk in the park for them. Victor didn't give up. So the matter went to the High Court. And Victor said, what the hell? Why would anybody think that Victor's Little Secret sells Victoria's Secret stuff? I sell €1, $1, $2 stuff, and none of my customers would ever mix up my shop with Victoria's Secret. Again, in the High Court, Victor lost, and then Victor went to the Supreme Court, and Victor won. Because the Supreme Court in the US said, the way the law is drafted, you have to actually prove that customers got fooled. Can you even prove a single case where a customer wanted to buy €100, underwear, fancy frilly underwear for his girlfriend, and ended up buying a €1 underwear because of confusion? So of course, this is very illustrative about customers' attention, and the law assumes that a customer has brains. Now, of course, this case is not so straightforward because Victoria's Secret managed to get the law changed in the United States. And then when this matter went again to the Supreme Court didn't reply or answer to anything. And so, of course, Victor lost finally. But that's a different story. All right. So there are some other cases as well over here that I have outlined in Moodle. Maybe you could check them out and read them. One is Windsurfing Shenzhe Productions. So those of you who have been to that part of Bavaria in Germany, they have this Chiemsee, and it's a lake. And well, somebody had a shop near the lake, and they called it Chiemsee, whatever, t-shirts or sportswear. And then it's a big lake, and somebody on the other side of the lake, in another town, also started to sell products, sports stuff or something like that, with the similar title, trademark, Chiemsee XYZ. And so the first Chiemsee guy sued the second Chiemsee guy and said, what the hell, you can't use that trademark. So it's like, let's say in Tallinn you have Ülemiste, so it's a lake. So if I am on the airport side of Ülemiste and I decide to call my shop Ülemiste Pizza, and then there's somebody on the opposite side of the lake and he or she decides to call their cafe Ülemiste Cafe, it's a bit of a problem here, because you see, this lake is not somebody's family property, right? I mean, it belongs to everybody. So of course, your trademark cannot impinge on other people's rights to use that as a trademark. Now, well, this could be contrasted with, for example, Finnair. But you see, Finnair is a bit of a different situation of Air France or Alitalia or British Airways, because they've been around for a very long time, several decades, almost 70, 80, 90 years. So of course, the rules are a bit different for them because they have been around much longer. But generally, a trademark is bad if it is descriptive, if it sort of describes in a geographical sense, or the quality or quantity or the purpose or the value of the goods or services. Another example would be the double mint case. So I have put that up over here in Moodle as well. Again, just to read, not from the exam point of view, not relevant at all, but just to read and understand. So in the double mint case, there was a chewing gum and somebody was selling chewing gum with a mint taste to it. And then somebody started selling double mint and claiming that it has double the amount of mint. And of course, they applied for a trademark, and the trademark office said, come on, this is crazy, right? Because then somebody will apply for triple mint, quadruple mint, century mint, so much mint that you put it on your tongue, you could die of mint poisoning. Where does it stop? So of course, these sort of things are a problem. There is also a case regarding, I have put it up over here, it would be Philips versus Remington. It's about the shape of their electronic razor. And these razors, there are those that you shave, and then there are the automatic ones, which are of course dry. You just go over your face, and so of course they have a certain specific shape, because that rotary design has to be really well thought of. You don't want it chewing your skin. And of course, it's a razor, it's not an epilator, right? Epilator pulls the hair out, a razor shaves the hair. So well, one of the companies had this razor, electronic razor. You can see the drawing in the case law that is put up in Moodle. And it had 3 heads. And so they didn't want anybody else, any other competitor, to use a similar shaped razor head. And of course, the court said, well, this is not your exclusive shape and you cannot call it as your trademark. Then there are some other situations. For example, a trademark which is customary in your line of trade. So you have to be very careful about this. And this brings us to an example which is very relevant. You see, nowadays, there's a big risk that sometimes a good trademark can become a common trademark. So for example, if you see Google is a very good trademark, right? I mean, it had no prior history to it or anything. It's a brand new word coined specially for this particular service. But you see what's happening now is very often you say, all right, Google it online. Yeah. So a proper noun ends up becoming a verb. And that's a big problem. let's Skype tonight. Yeah, so that's again a problem. Let's WhatsApp. Yeah. So see, you see what's happening over here is we have very good trademarks that are getting diluted, becoming more and more customary, becoming